Think back to your favorite game or game system from your childhood. It was your go-to for fun and relaxation, right? Now imagine if that same game or system was suddenly possessed by evil. Sounds pretty intense, doesn't it? I know it may sound silly, but stay with me here.
Glad you are.
This is the only way I can explain it.
Why did you...
So, let's dive into this together. This game starts off with this cutscene, which isn't voice acted, but that isn't a bad thing, with the creator, Bazzy, using those star things, also known as asterisks, to show action. Unlike your Roblox roleplays from 2018, it isn't cringe.
Alright, well, this is sure to be interesting. The boss. Thought he would stop calling by now. What does he want at this hour? Hey, boss. Hey, Nick. Hope you're doing well this evening. Yeah, I am. I'm glad you are. Things have been fine for me as well. So, why did you call me? Alright. I was hoping you could do a favor for me. I haven't forgotten about Percy's Playhouse yet, right? Of course not. Why? Well, business has been great ever since I laid you off. I had to shut the place down last week, in fact. However, plans for this whole building to be demolished by Friday morning. I really don't want any hooligans breaking in and taking anything valuable. I plan to sell most of it throughout this week, actually. So, would you be willing to watch over Percy's until Friday? You wouldn't have to do much. Only stay there until morning. Maybe get some bonus chores done as well. What do you say? I'm not sure. What'd be in it for me? Oh. 250. And I'll throw in a free gift basket. Okay, sure. I'll do it. How hard could it be? Perfect. You can start tonight. Go on over to Percy's for 8 p.m. I'll explain more once you're in the office.
As seen, our player, Nick, is presumably either a fired or laid off employee of Percy or Percy's, with your boss, who's also known as John Johnson, that I ripped straight from the wiki, so I think it's true. Anyways, this is kinda a minor part of the game, so let's get moving on to the main course. Or should I say dessert, because there's a mouse. God, that's such a crap joke. And the worst part is I'm doing this on purpose, so yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Additional challenge.
So, this night, Monday, is a great start night. That begins with the tutorial that shows you the basic controls, such as the knockoff Tamagotchi thing, which is how you progress the night. Basically, this is how it works. This tool has 3 actions linked to it. with each of them being a interesting mechanic. Starting with the bone catcher, for lack of a better term, this is a ultra mini game. This game has your pal Percy holding a bowl and running around to catch 3 to 4 bones. This is done by pressing the A and D keys. The middle game is by far the quote-unquote hard ultra mini game, with you spam clicking the W and S keys to fill the bowl up an unspecified amount. This is one of the few parts of the game that led so many deaths in all of my playthrough. This minigame is forcing you to pay attention and not have any solid amount of water to reliably just put into the bowl, which makes later nights harder. Then my personal favorite out of every single ultra minigame, this being the catch minigame. This is where you use the A, D, and space keys to toss a ball to Percy, which has a set amount of 6 to 7 throws. Then we have the quid pro quo camera system, but this one we will talk about later because it's currently useless to us. From the pal Percy device and camera, let's talk about your active threats in the night. Your only threats on this night are Mother Moose and Charlie Cat, which have actively conflicting plays, but with only one unifier, this being them coming through the vents, which naturally makes noise when they're coming. Anyways, how they work is Mother Goose forces you to use a device, which is honestly really awesome for like later nights. Then you have the most minorly annoying character, Charlie Cat. He works the opposite way, with you having to keep your devices off until he goes away. So basically you spend a couple of minutes doing that for the first night, and then you have a real minigame after that night. Now this minigame is something very novel in the fan game scene. It's a section that you're literally selling the animatronics. Now, like always in sales, you want to get a good price, so you have to reject lowball offers. To do this, you click the reject button, then enter a 2-digit code into the window. This raises the offered price by $100, and you just repeat this. Sounds easy, right? Well, yeah, it is. But then you have the added aspect of Charlie Cat, you remember him, walk around your area, and then you have to hide underneath the table to avoid being caught by Charlie. Which, very easy, but as the difficulty increases, this is done by having you type in 4 numbers instead of 2, Charlie Cat walking quicker. It gets slightly harder. To start with, this game's first night is genuinely amazing. As someone who loves gameplay creativity, I appreciate the game's impressive setup and how it introduces threats and necessary steps to progress the game with ease and clarity. However, there is one aspect of the game I'd like to focus on: the minigame. Although it's great, it just isn't challenging. The footsteps in the minigame are so loud, you can hear them long before Charlie Cat can even jump scare you, making it easy to beat the task. In my opinion, the game's artificial difficulty is just unnecessary. Especially like in the minigame, you have to reach the goal of $600 to $900, with the price being anywhere, well, initially being at anywhere from $100 to like $500, which is just unnecessary. And it isn't as interesting. Moreover, the game's difficulty curve feels a bit uneven in some parts. While the first night is fantastic, some parts of the game feel too easy or too hard, making it challenging for players to maintain their interest and overall engagement in the game. Overall, the game is impressive and well designed. However, there's always room for improvement, and addressing some of these issues could make it even more exciting and engaging for the players. Now on to Tuesday. With a hip and a hop into Yeehaw Land, we start the night by finding out about our new threats. Those being, fittingly, Farmer Felix and a poodle. Because why not? So Farmer Felix is a thing, I'm not sure what, that when it walks by your office window, its eye color changes, so you have to press the Simon Says looking thing to match his eye color. Then this poodle thing has a really weird but kind of interesting mechanic. So basically what it does is forces you to play with POW and get one score with, funnily enough, each Ultra minigame going up by one score to complete it. If you don't complete it within a certain amount of time, you die. So, nothing too bad. But it isn't that hard. So, compared to the next night, so that's what we have for right now. Now, we need to hold our horses, or should I say mooses. So basically this night, you have to play this awful, I mean god-awful minigame, which you have to play for so long, which is basically just Space Invaders, but just hell. And it looks a lot easier than it is. So basically, you're in a room with this arcade machine, and you have to beat a high score to break it. Maybe? It's really weird how it ends, but you have to turn around and flash Mother Moose with a flashlight or a camera. I honestly don't remember, so you don't get, jump scared by them. This is pretty easy. Well, that part is pretty easy. But then you have to get a score. And I'm not kidding. I've seen this range from 6,000 to 5,500. With each common or green enemy being only 50 points and reds being 100. But those ones can shoot back at you, and they're pretty quick. So it's hard to dodge them and actually kill them. After going through this, you get to the second half where you have to flash the moose twice. And on the arcade, everything's like double speed. Then there's like yellow ones that are glitched out. And everything's just absolutely weird looking, which is just needlessly hard. Alright, so really on this game, this night, well, so far being the weakest part of the game, later nights kind of get a lot weaker, if I'm being frank, but this all comes back to, well, the minigames, and, well, quite frankly, how high the bar was set with the first night. While this night does provide some great setup for future nights, it falls. It falls in short in terms of value, entertainment value. Now, don't get me wrong, the night itself is creative and full of interesting ideas, but unfortunately, it doesn't deliver on them. The point of art is to entertain or make a statement, but this night seems to do neither. Rather than being a standalone piece, it feels more like a mere build-up to something bigger, which it should be able to do both. But again, that's just a small complaint. The minigame on this night is atrocious, as it just doesn't play well. It's a shame because the other parts of the game have so much care put into them. But every single minigame in these nights just feel lackluster. It doesn't handle well, and it fails to introduce any new cool ideas that could contrast with previous nights. However, I will say that the graphics in the minigame are very clean and clearly show that a lot of purpose and care was put into the design. While it's small consolation, it's still good to see that the developers put effort into every aspect of the game. Okay, so this night is the night that things actually start to get hard, but in a really indirect way. So this night introduces to us the eponyme of this game. That's a new word that I just learned, so clap for me, thank you. Percy. Percy the Poodle more or less stands in front of your office slowly and progresses to your office door. Side note, there is another poodle that does the same thing, but it is significantly cuter. Just a little fuzzball. So basically, when it reaches the door, it starts banging the door. Not in that way, you horny person, stop it. But with the goal in mind of breaking the door itself. If it breaks it, you get jump scared and die. So you have to hold the door locked with them hitting it, and then it resets. And now this sounds very easy, right? Wrong. This is where last night's mechanics comes to shine. Both of them are quick actions that will distract you from closing the door, which just makes the night so deservedly harder, which I love. And by far, in terms of nights, this is my favorite night.
Yes.
I did all of them.
Now, this is where things get fun. This minigame introduces the hardest character in this game, Rowan the Rat. Now, this thing is going to be so annoying. But onwards, hey, we just basically play 4 mini games to turn the lights back on, and these are the same exact mini games throughout each and every single following night, which gets so repetitive.
Resistance, please call the number on your screen.
This is where things start to get out of hand. This is when Rowan Rat comes in.
Okay.
Behind you, there's a door and 2 holes on either side of this door. These holes are where Rowan will come from. And his mechanic is this. Whenever you hear a noise, turn behind you and use the flashlight on him. Overall, this isn't really hard. This minigame is just not the best, not the worst. But what it does do is introduce to us a new character. which is very different for this game. The midpoint is where we basically get to the hard part of the game, or mini game, like always. Side tangent. What the hell is this? Like seriously, what the hell are the mini games? They get so atrocious. Like, nothing against the developers, but this is the worst part of the game. And I'm gonna be harping on this the entire time, and my opinions are really crap, so don't take them as, anything important. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get to my opinions on this. So this night itself is very enjoyable. But, again, like I just said, the mini games are dog. But overall, it isn't too bad compared to some other games I've played. Juniors. So, this night overall was not the worst thing ever. Now, this night is where things start to become super difficult, and it's where we realize how big of a mistake it was to not prepare for this game. This was so difficult. And now we even have more of those shit poodles and that goddamn rat, and I want to cry right now because of those assholes. So just like last night, but now there's one mechanic that forces you to use the cameras for the first time in this game, which is quite frankly novel. And it's super good to see. Now, this mechanic involves those damn poodles. Whenever you hear a weird dog noise, you have to shock them. Great for animal rights. Super. This is followed by watching the corner rooms for the Rat Man and shocking his brain out of his head. So basically, electrotherapy. Yay! Not much of note. Besides the fact I died like 5 different times on this. So yeah. Oh yeah, because the 5th night, Friday, is more or less the same dealio. We're just not gonna really do anything for it. So yeah. My god. This minigame was kinda cool, but at the same time, it's just kinda stale. And it has been, because we just keep on getting the same core minigame. So this one, we had to fix Farmer Felix. Or, I think Farmer Felix. And every so often, stop fixing him to click on some poodles. I mean, what are we doing to the poodles? What's the clicking doing to them? Anyways, that's very concerning about what are we doing? Anyways, this is the same song and dance. We're just cruel for no reason. Oh, so this is why all those minigames were trash. Because the creator must have been putting all their time into this. This is the minigame where you had to replace Percy's battery with, and I swear to God, I'm not joking, that bastard Tamagotchi ripoff pal Percy toy. How the hell do you replace an animatronic's battery with that? I mean, what? I swear to God, I'm going insane with this.
That's even better.
Anyways, spooky things happen. You think it's the end of the game, but no. Boom, now possession of the animatronics.
Did that just say 65?
I need to be honest with you. For as much as I've shat on this game, and quite frankly will be doing a bit more forward,
Nope.
it isn't bad.
Alright, so.
Especially this morning thing. I don't know. Saturday morning, or yeah, I assume Saturday morning. You have 5 different phases with very interesting mechanics. Okay, so what is happening here is the new Percy, or what we will be calling it, Pal Percy, or PP. Haha, PP. Don't give me that stare. We both know you chuckled at it, so stop it. So it has those little TV things there to tell you to find them. Which finally gives you a reason to actually use the cameras. Which is absolutely amazing. I mean, like, thank you, good lord. But anyways, you have to find what Pal Percy wants. Which is either a rubber hose drawn style, piece of meat, cup, or ball. Anyways, I forgot to mention, at the start of each of these phases, start with a 3-minute or so timer. That runs out, you die. So, let's get moving on. As you may have noticed, I didn't give an opinion on the last phase. I'll be doing that later when I'm giving my full opinion of this game, which is trash, my opinion. And the damn minigames, don't get me started on this again. Anyways, this is where knockoff Flumpty motherfucking Flumpty Dumpty from One Night at Flumpty's comes back. Jokes aside, this phase adds in a kind of interesting mechanic that builds up through the night, or better yet, morning. So this mechanic is, every so often you'll hear this weird scaling noise, and you'll have to find this egg-looking thing with an eye, and commit its shock therapy by, shocking it so it won't kill you. And that's really it. There's only that added. So now we'll be dealing with cool threats. Now I will save you some time. They're like, super cool. So you remember those annoying poodle things, right? So these are kind of them, but now we can use these thumb cards to kind of off them, wink wink, if you catch my drift, and if you can't, well, sucks for you. And so to pair with this, if you don't, they will mess with your controls, but not to the extent of something else coming up later. Now, the other thing are these weird egg things with legs and feet. I don't like that. It's very uncomfy. It's very visually uncomfortable. And I just don't like it. And it is, it's the easiest threat in the game, but it just does not sit right with me.
I just clutched up.
Now is when shit gets real. Like, for real. This is when Pal Percy does that Flowey from Undertale face and goes full on yandere, with a bit of the robot egg roaches and expanding on the poodles. This is when those damn poodles get even more annoying. So this is when a new poodle appears on your cameras. They will completely reverse your controls and just mess up your vision to the point it kind of looks like you're dying. So basically, real quick theory, Nick is either going insane or he's a robot. Beep boop bop. I'm at Pat level theory. Anyways, this is the least of our problems, but this all together gets kind of difficult pretty quickly. So we have found the hardest part of the night, which makes sense. This is when that yandere ass pal Percy decides to make you play a cup game that if you get wrong once, you die, having to restart that phase. Then you have Percy now jolting to your door and slamming it, forcing you to lock the door yet again. So we now know what it is into, which, not gonna lie, is kinda disturbing. Anyways, besides me very scarred from seeing that, we are going. This is the last phase before the end cutscene.
Let's go through it. Ring, mix.
Play cutscene.
And Percy. Yeah, I know. He, had a bit of a mouth.
I mean, this is a great ending with the dude turning out to be, not evil.
Well,
Plus, seeing a wrecking ball destroy that Tamagotchi toy. It was so nice to see. I just love it.
you're like trying to find the spirit. Really quickly, you better sub, comment, and like.
Or you will end up like this guy.
Help! I'm trapped!
Shut up! So now on to my opinion of this game. If you can't tell by the thumbnail, I really think this game is a true reflection of the FNaF community as a whole. I mean, just look at it. It has to be one of the most imaginative things I've seen in a while. I mean, you literally have to play with the Tamagotchi rip-off toy, with the goal being to keep it happy so you can actually make it through the night and get out of the establishment. With such cool concepts as, shocking a robot rat, or having animatronics that require you to either have a tool up or down, that's where it really shines. Now the part that really just sucks is how repetitive it is. I mean, after night 2, it's basically the same minigame for most of the time. For the most part, these games are just the same exact minigames, but with slightly different settings, which is really reflective of, every other FNaF fan game. I mean, just look at the front page of Game Jolt. Every single FNaF fan game has a lot of repetitiveness in it. But it's within this that, games such as Blitz Casa, for those who aren't familiar, their minigame is just basically walking around a maze with 0 visuals and 0 threats. I mean, even that was more entertaining. My point is, these games, every single FNaF fan game, of varying quality, even these 2 absolutely amazing games, are very repetitive, which is honestly a disservice to them. I mean, this is where most developers have good ideas, and their minigames are where they fall off. It's where they start to become uninspired. Now, this game has very little story, and what it does have isn't used, at least not to its full potential. I mean, for a game with such interesting gameplay as this, you'd think more would have been put into the story. But I'm dead wrong. This game has little but decent story. But it can be basically summarized into you get a call from your boss asking you to come back to work for a week for $250. Now, I just want to say this. If your boss is only paying you $250 a week, that is like $12.50 if you assume that for every day of the 5 days that week, you get paid for every hour you work, which for me was on average roughly 4. So I just kind of rounded it up. So yeah, you get paid $12.50 to risk your life. Great way of, that's a great way of handling things. Great workers' hazard pay. Anyways, then hijinks ensue, and on Saturday, I think, when the building is set for destruction, the evil toy possesses some stuff and tries to kill you. Then it's broken by a wrecking ball, and all ends well. AKA, one of my favorite parts of the story. See that? That is literally the story and the whole game summed up in about 25 seconds or so. I don't know. But its story is lacking, to say the least, with not much imagination actually put into it. Hell, most media with good and bad guys in it have one thing in common: the hero's journey. This doesn't even have that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a missed opportunity. Now, since I didn't really do any background information earlier, let me tell you about the creator of the game. Now, before I get into the apparent fan base for this game, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the Banana Splits series, which, please do not confuse them with the similar media, the Banana Splits movie, which is a completely whole other can of beans. But these games consist of a crappy-looking custom night game and some very interesting-looking mechanics that I won't be going into depth here about, but if you ask for it, I'll think about it. But anyways, this game sets you in the FNaF 3 style office. In the office, you have to run around in a FNaF 4 style way to meet odds and ends. Plus endlessly more creative minigames within the first 2 minutes. This is clearly another very interesting game created by Fazzy. This all is needed to know, because what I say next might sound a bit silly. This game's creator deservedly has an occult fan base, albeit kinda small, but still pretty large for what it is. Now, I don't really have too much of a real background on this side of fan bases, or any qualifications for this, but this is very bizarre. Especially since these games have had YouTubers with millions of subscribers play them and enjoy them. And on Reddit, they only have a following of roughly 40 or so people. Now, I'm not saying I like that. that I don't like that this game has a small fan base on Reddit. But I'm trying to provide that even in places where the community is very small, it's very cold. It has a massive strength. This is more seen in its massive Twitter presence. Now, I don't want to speak with this lightly. When I say this, I really do mean this. On Twitter, Playtime with Percy has a Undertale-esque following, with people having made countless OCs, and I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple AUs with it. If you don't know what any of that means, it's basically how people are making their own characters and universes for this game. But that really makes me think, am I missing something? Which led me down a really weird rabbit hole. This game has amounted to a community that has actively been making new content regarding Playtime with Percy, such as Pal Percy having character development, or comics about a bird that doesn't even exist in this game and it's a business person, and more OCs interacting with established characters, or for fuck's sake, a poodle smoking some Zaza. What the hell is this? Now this has been not even half of it. That is why I dedicated 2 days to solely looking at these fan-made pieces of content. And it has been a real experience of something I haven't seen before. This game signifies something very interesting to me. A massive change in OCs and AUs becoming popular in the indie game scene. The only other game that I've really seen have a similar effect is actually, funnily enough, Undertale, which even today has a massive following. That just is a self-sustaining work that continuously makes new works and draws more people into it. Now, with this game, which is still in relative obscurity, we're seeing a massive shift into this type of content. For hell's sake, fulfilling that, which is kind of ironic to say the least. And people clearly love this game, but if I'm being frank, I don't get that. With the progression of this game slowly becoming more repetitive, that's, ironically enough, part that takes away from me, at least, and what actually gives it its charm. For me to better understand this game, and moreover, I had to get into contact with a very special person. That's right, I got in contact with the actual developer. Like a normal person, I had to ask him these 4 questions. 1. How did the development cycle go? And were there any significant challenges or issues you encountered? 2. What were the main sources of inspiration for Playtime with Percy? And how do you believe the Banana Splits games influenced both the gameplay and visual style? 3. Do you have any intentions of plans to grow the storyline or expand this game into a series? And 4. How has the support and enthusiasm of your fanbase impacted your work and process in game development? This was responded to very thoroughly and with some great responses by Fazzy.
You think you won, you little. You were supposed to be this cosmic. I was supposed to sleep.
As you can clearly see, Fazzy gave me a lot of information, and I wasn't even prepared for any of it. So let's just take it all in bit by bit. During the development of Playtime with Percy, Fazzy, the lead developer, didn't need too much help. For the most part, he was aided by animators, musicians, or sound designers. Fazzy thinks that an interesting premise for a boss fight is having the thing that you've relied on for so long turn around and become the main villain of the game, which is very interesting, at least to me. Quote, "The pal Percy fight, though, was a real challenge of development. Since the start, I've wanted the main antagonist to be your pal Percy. I felt it was truly the best way to go at it. The pal Percy was the main tool you knew how to use through the game. So making it turn it against you, this whole fleshed out boss battle, just felt right." End quote. But from what he says, the main problem in development was the switch to a pseudo 3D style, because they needed to rely on more people to actually make it happen, even though they were the only one mainly creating it. However, through the hardship, they created a boss fight they were very proud of, and has to be one of the most entertaining parts of the game. Quote, "But through it all, we pushed through to make it. It is, without a doubt, the best thing I've made. I'm very proud of how that fight came out, and I think a lot of people can see this too." End quote. I really have to agree with Fazzy here. It is by far the best part of the game, without a doubt. For these games, the main inspiration was, funnily enough, other fan games that have similar structures to Playtime with Percy, such as Dealerland, which is a game that I honestly love. Other games that inspired Fazzy to make this were Tattletale, a official game that Fazzy was, again, a fan of, which was, funnily enough, the first video I ever wrote anything for. So we have something in common with that, with them especially being infatuated with annoying toys being a source of horror. Quote, "The entire idea of a horror game focused on taking care of an annoying pet toy with a similar pet toy coming after you is just a very fun idea, and you can do a lot with it." End quote. Or how games like Friday Night Funkin' or Undertale / Deltarune inspired parts of the game like its minigames. This was interesting to see because even in the fan art, such as this, you can see how the community sees both of these games, with even more clear representation of the impact of Undertale and Deltarune in the pal Percy fight. Although the Banana Splits games were gross graphically speaking, they don't hold up to Fazzy's standards. Although graphics aren't everything, I would be remiss. So I don't believe I have mentioned this, but a well-known project that Fazzy is working on is a game that and a team that, again, includes Fazzy, called New Management, which is a highly anticipated game that I am personally excited for. But I digress. Although Fazzy doesn't have any plans to make a continuation of the story, which is rather basic and cliche, which is something that they even support, they have help from Artsy Does Stuff, who is actually Pal. So I love how they voiced Pal. It just was really fit in for the character. Anyways, they have some tidbits out there for later projects, such as Project H, which will even have a fan artist work on it. Seraphimix, sorry for the punctuation of it, I'm very bad at trying to say whatever that username is. Anyways, quote, we're actually working on this cool thing called quote unquote Project H. I can't say what it is right now, but trust me when I say it's a cool little thing we are doing as a thank you to the success Percy brought all of us. We've brought on a fan artist, Seraphimixus, for the project as well. Trust me when I say his art is out of this world. People are going to love it. This has to be one of the most feedback-affected series or developers that I've seen in a while. I mean, solely having a fan artist work on a secret project is really something else, and it is impressive to me. I do realize I don't have the most positive view of this game at parts, but Fazzy is an ideal developer and type of developer that everyone who develops should strive to be. Great connection with his fan base and a great imagination. Now this game, if you couldn't tell from what I have said earlier, has a big fan community. Funnily enough, similar to Toby Fox, they have a giant fan community. Quote, the support is just so crazy to me still. I can't really wrap my head around it still. End quote. Even though they've come from a bittersweet origin in the FNaF fan community, they became a popular development team. Again, kind of like Toby Fox. A lot of similarities between them, and ironically, they are one of their inspirations, or one of the people who made games that inspired them. Quote, so seeing just this entire reaction to the game is very surreal, end quote. Fazzy even actively communicated in their Discord server, which is something really amazing to see. Their team has clearly fostered a great community that is enjoyable for everyone to participate in. This is, quite frankly, kind of like how, the whole FNaF community, the whole point of this video is, it is a strong community that tries to strive to make a great environment for everyone involved in it. This is, quite frankly, gonna just keep on growing on, because, surprise, this isn't gonna be their last game that they're developing, this time with a team now, but it did teach them to pursue any type of game that they want to work on. With this script running on and my willpower to finish this dwindling, I want to end with two things. This game, although something I don't fully understand, is an amazing analogy for the FNaF fan game community as a whole. That shows how well people can truly connect over something as small as this game. A game built by more or less one person with one development cycle on pure dedication. That truly shows the love of this community. Now for the second part, I like to end this off with, Fazzy's ending. Quote, I want to end this off by stating that this entire community is filled with very talented people, and I want to make sure it's known. I love you guys and thank you for for showing your interest/support in this game. All of us are very grateful for it, and thank you. End quote.